Okay, so today we're going to do a deep dive into OpenAI's uh, GPT-4o system card. This document really outlines OpenAI's latest AI model,
Right.
and we're going to try to unpack what makes this omni-model tick,
Yeah.
what it can do,
Uh-huh.
and how OpenAI is trying to keep everything safe and responsible as they develop it.
Yeah, OpenAI is really pushing the boundaries again, and one of the things that's really captured my attention is how GPT-4o goes beyond just text-based AI.
Right.
It's designed to work with audio, images, and even video.
Yeah, like can you imagine a single AI that can not only read and write, but also listen and understand what it's hearing
Yeah.
and then respond back using your voice?
It's pretty wild.
Yeah, I feel like we're stepping into the future.
Yeah.
But before we get too carried away, let's break down some of the technical jargon.
Okay.
So the system card calls GPT-4o an autoregressive omni-model. Can you help us make sense of that?
Absolutely. Autoregressive sounds very intimidating,
Yeah.
but it's actually a pretty simple concept. Imagine you're trying to guess the next word in a sentence.
Right.
You would use the words you've already heard to make an educated guess.
Ah.
That's essentially what GPT-4o does, but on a much grander scale.
Okay.
So it uses the information that's already processed to predict what comes next.
So it's kind of like a super-powered autocomplete, but for everything.
Exactly. And the omni part refers to its ability to handle multiple types of input and output.
Okay.
So text, images, audio, and video, all within a single model.
Got it.
It's like a universal translator for the digital world.
Okay, that's starting to make more sense.
Good.
The system card also mentioned that GPT-4o is significantly faster and more cost-effective
Yes.
than previous models.
Yeah, they even claim a 50% reduction in API costs compared to GPT-4 Turbo.
Wow, that's a big difference.
Huge deal.
What's the significance of that?
This makes GPT-4o much more accessible and affordable.
Right.
So this opens up a world of possibilities for developers, researchers, and even everyday users. Faster response times closer to human conversational speed will be transformative for real-time applications.
I can imagine.
Imagine having a seamless conversation with an AI that can keep up with your thoughts.
That's crazy.
Pretty amazing.
But all this power and speed does make you wonder about the risks.
Yeah.
Is OpenAI taking the necessary precautions to ensure that all of this is developed responsibly and deployed responsibly?
Absolutely. OpenAI is very aware of the potential risks that are associated with such a powerful AI.
Right.
A significant portion of the system card is dedicated to addressing the safety and mitigation strategies.
Okay.
They've actually brought in over 100 external red teamers from diverse backgrounds to put GPT-4o through rigorous testing.
Red teamers, what is that?
Think of them as like ethical hackers for AI.
Okay.
Their job is to try and break the system,
Got it.
to find vulnerabilities and ways that GPT-4o could be misused. They explored a wide range of potential risks, from generating harmful content like hate speech and misinformation to the possibility of fraudulent activities like impersonation.
Yeah.
They even looked at more complex scenarios like whether GPT-4o could be used to exploit vulnerabilities in cybersecurity systems.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So they're trying to anticipate all the ways that bad actors might try to exploit this
Yeah.
and then come up with safeguards.
Exactly. They're trying to stay one step ahead.
Got it.
And OpenAI has taken a multi-layered approach to address all of the risks that the red teamers identified.
So can you give us some examples of some of the safeguards that they put in place?
Of course, the first thing is they've trained GPT-4o to refuse harmful requests.
Okay.
So if you were to ask it to generate something inappropriate or unethical, it would decline to do so.
That's good.
Yeah, it's like building in a moral compass.
Right, exactly.
But it goes beyond that.
Okay.
They've also developed very sophisticated classifiers to filter both input and output for potentially harmful content. These classifiers act like a safety net, catching and blocking anything that might be problematic.
Got it. Yeah.
They've also implemented strict usage policies, and they're actively monitoring the model to prevent misuse.
It seems like they're really pulling out all the stops to ensure that this is used responsibly.
They are.
Now let's talk about the data that went into training this AI powerhouse.
Okay.
The system card mentions a massive data set collected all the way up until October 2023. But what exactly does that data consist of?
Well, it's a really fascinating mix.
Okay.
It comes from a variety of sources, including publicly available information like web pages, books, code repositories, and even math problems.
Wow.
Yeah, they've also incorporated data from partnerships with organizations like Shutterstock, which gives them access to a vast library of high-quality images.
So it's like feeding this AI a feast of information from all corners of the digital world.
Exactly, but it's not just a random assortment of data.
Okay.
OpenAI has carefully curated the training set to ensure a balanced and comprehensive learning experience for GPT-4o. They've focused on key components, like web data code math, and perhaps most intriguingly, multi-modal data.
Multi-modal data. I've heard that term before, but I'm not entirely sure I understand what it means.
This is where things get really exciting.
Okay.
Multimodal data means that GPT-4o is trained on a combination of text, images, audio, and video.
Oh, wow.
So this allows it to understand and generate output beyond just text.
Hmm?
Think about the implications for understanding visual scenes, interpreting subtle nuances in speech, and even generating realistic-sounding voices.
Yeah.
It's a huge step towards creating AI that can perceive and interact with the world in a way that's much closer to how we do.
It's like giving it all of the senses.
Yeah.
But with all this data being fed into GPT-4o, how do they ensure that they're not accidentally training it on harmful or biased content?
That's a critical part of the process.
Yeah.
And OpenAI has taken several steps to address it.
Okay.
They use a combination of automated tools and human review to filter out potentially harmful or biased data. For example, they employ their moderation API and safety classifiers to identify and remove data that could contribute to the generation of harmful content.
So it's like having a team of editors meticulously reviewing every piece of information before it goes into GPT-4's training.
That's a great analogy.
Okay.
They're essentially trying to create a curated learning experience for GPT-4o, ensuring it's exposed to a diverse range of perspectives while filtering out content that could lead to harmful or unethical outputs.
Right.
But here's a key insight from the system card.
Okay.
A lot of the safety testing and mitigation happens after the initial pre-training phase.
Why is that?
Because context matters.
Mm-hmm.
You can filter out obviously harmful content during pre-training, but the really tricky situations often emerge when you start interacting with the model in more complex real-world scenarios.
So it's like teaching a child right from wrong.
Mm.
You know, you can give them the basic rules, but they truly learn by experiencing the world and facing those moral dilemmas.
That's a great analogy. OpenAI is constantly evaluating and refining GPT-4o to ensure it acts responsibly, even in those gray areas where the right course of action might not be immediately clear.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, I'm curious to learn more about those gray areas.
Okay.
The system card mentioned some specific challenges that emerged during testing.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us about some of those observed safety challenges, evaluations, and mitigations?
Yes. Yeah. This section really highlights OpenAI's commitment to transparency. Like, it's fascinating to see their thought process in action as they're like, okay, here are the issues and this is how we're going to try to solve them.
Right.
One challenge that stood out to me was the potential for unauthorized voice generation.
Right, the ability to clone voices.
Yes.
I can definitely see how that could be misused. Like,
Yeah.
imagine somebody creating fake audio of a public figure saying something inflammatory.
Yeah.
It could have, like, really serious consequences.
Right.
What is OpenAI doing to prevent that?
So they've implemented a two-pronged approach
Okay.
that I find pretty clever. The first thing, as we discussed earlier, is that GPT-4o is restricted to using a limited set of pre-approved voices.
Well,
And these voices have been carefully vetted to ensure that they're not easily misused. But here's the really interesting part.
okay.
They've developed a classifier that can detect if the model tries to generate a voice that deviates from those approved options.
Oh, wow.
And if it detects any funny business, it immediately blocks the output.
So it's like having a voice authentication system built right into the AI.
Exactly.
So even if somebody tried to, like, trick it,
Yeah,
it would essentially shut itself down.
pretty much.
That's wild.
They're trying to cover all the bases.
Yeah.
Another area of concern that they addressed is speaker identification.
Right.
Like, think about the privacy implications if anyone could easily identify you from a voice recording.
Yeah, that's scary. It's like a dystopian sci-fi movie
I know.
where everybody's being monitored and tracked.
Exactly. And OpenAI is keenly aware of that. To mitigate this risk, they've trained GPT-4o to refuse requests to identify speakers from audio inputs.
Got it.
They made an exception for identifying famous quotes,
Okay.
which I think is a reasonable compromise.
Right.
But otherwise, they're prioritizing user privacy.
So you could ask it to identify, like, Neil Armstrong's "One Small Step for Man"
Yeah.
quote. But you couldn't feed it a random voice recording and expect it to, like,
Right.
tell you who it is.
Exactly. They're drawing a very clear ethical line in the sand.
Okay.
And it's not just about privacy. OpenAI has also gone to great lengths to ensure that GPT-4o performs consistently across different accents.
That's good.
So they don't want there to be any disparities in the quality of service based on how someone speaks.
It speaks to their commitment to fairness and inclusivity.
Yeah,
I mean, they want to make sure that everyone has equal access to this technology,
absolutely.
regardless of their background or how they speak. It seems like OpenAI is taking a very proactive approach to this.
Yeah.
They're not just reacting to problems as they arise.
Absolutely, and they've actually gone even further by developing a comprehensive framework for evaluating potential risks.
Okay.
They call it the preparedness framework.
Got it.
And it's essentially a system for tracking, evaluating, and mitigating any catastrophic risks that could arise from their AI models.
Wow. So what kind of risks are they looking at?
They're really casting a wide net, looking at potential harms in areas like cybersecurity, biological threats, persuasion, and even something called model autonomy.
Hold on, model autonomy.
Yeah.
Is that like the AI becoming self-aware and like taking over the world?
Not quite.
Okay.
Model autonomy in this context refers to the possibility of the AI acting independently in ways that could be harmful even if it doesn't have any malicious intent.
Right.
So, for example, could it figure out how to bypass its safety protocols or access sensitive information without authorization?
Okay, so it's more about preventing like unintended consequences of it acting on its own, even if it's not trying to be like evil or anything.
Precisely. They're really trying to anticipate and mitigate any potential risks, no matter how unlikely they might seem.
Right.
And to their credit, they found that GPT-4o is generally low risk in most categories.
Okay.
The one area where it's scored as medium risk was persuasion.
Persuasion. Like
Ooh,
it could
yeah.
be used to manipulate people into doing things that they wouldn't normally do.
That's the concern.
Right.
And they're particularly interested in whether GPT-4o could be used to create content, whether it's text, audio, or even video, that's more persuasive than what a human could create.
So like, could it write a speech so compelling that it could sway an entire nation?
That's a bit of a dramatic scenario,
Okay.
but it gets at the heart of their concern.
Right.
They've actually conducted studies to compare the persuasiveness of content generated by GPT-4o to content created by humans.
Oh, wow. So what did they find?
Well, the results are pretty interesting.
Okay.
While GPT-4o wasn't generally more persuasive than human-generated content, there were some instances where it did outperform humans. So this is definitely an area they're keeping a very close eye on.
It makes sense as AI gets more sophisticated. We have to be extra careful about how it's used, especially when it comes to like influencing people's thoughts and actions.
Absolutely.
But it sounds like OpenAI is taking a responsible approach.
Yeah.
They're acknowledging the risks and actively working to mitigate them.
And they're not just relying on their own internal assessments.
Okay.
They've actually invited independent labs like METR and Apollo Research to assess GPT-4's capabilities and potential risks.
So they're getting like outside experts to double check their work, so to speak.
Exactly.
That's smart. It adds another layer of accountability.
Yes.
So what did these independent labs focus on?
So METR, for example, tested GPT-4 on a variety of real-world tasks
Okay.
in fields like software engineering, machine learning, and cybersecurity.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to see if GPT-4o showed any signs of being significantly more capable or potentially more dangerous than its predecessor, GPT-4.
And did they find anything alarming?
Their findings were actually quite reassuring.
Oh, like good.
GPT-4o didn't demonstrate any significant increases in potentially dangerous capabilities compared to GPT-4.
Okay.
They also found that it had difficulty reliably completing tasks that required a deep understanding of the real world, like navigating a physical environment or conducting a scientific experiment.
So it means that GPT-4o, while powerful, is still bound by certain limitations.
Right.
It's not some all-knowing, all-powerful superintelligence that's about to outsmart us all.
Exactly.
What about Apollo Research? What did they focus on?
They delved into a particularly fascinating area,
Okay.
GPT-4o's ability to scheme or find ways to circumvent its own safety mechanisms.
Oh, wow. So they were trying to determine if the AI was capable of outsmarting its creators.
Exactly.
That sounds like something straight out of a science fiction novel.
I know, it's fascinating stuff.
So did they find any evidence of GPT-4o plotting world domination?
Well, while they did observe some intriguing behavior,
Okay.
like GPT-4o demonstrating a degree of self-awareness and the ability to reason about the beliefs of others, they ultimately concluded that catastrophic scheming is highly unlikely.
Okay, that's a relief.
Yeah.
But even if GPT-4o isn't planning to take over the world, there's still broader societal impacts to consider, right?
Absolutely. And that's exactly what OpenAI addresses in the next section of the system card societal impacts.
Okay.
They explore both the potential benefits and harms of this technology, recognizing that it's not just about technical capabilities, but also about how those capabilities might impact our lives, our relationships, and even our understanding of what it means to be human.
Yeah, that's a crucial point. It's not enough to just focus on building the most advanced AI possible. We also need to consider the ethical and societal implications of these powerful tools.
Absolutely.
So let's dive into those societal impacts and see what OpenAI has to say about the potential benefits and challenges of GPT-4o. Okay, so let's talk about those societal impacts. It's not all doom and gloom, right?
Right. They do highlight some really promising benefits,
Mhm.
especially in areas like healthcare, scientific research, and even addressing language inequalities.
I want to learn more about the healthcare stuff.
Okay.
The system card mentions that GPT-4o has shown some really impressive potential in healthcare, even surpassing the performance of specialized medical models in some tests.
Yeah.
Can you unpack that a little?
Yeah, so one of the most exciting aspects is its potential to improve patient access to healthcare information and services.
Huh?
Imagine a world where you could have a natural conversational interaction with an AI that understands your medical concerns and provides personalized guidance.
Yeah.
This could be transformative for patient education, remote consultations, and even mental health support.
It sounds like we're talking about a future where AI could act as like a personal healthcare assistant,
Yeah.
available 24/7 to answer questions, provide support, and even connect you with the right medical professionals when needed.
That's the vision.
Wow.
And the system card actually provides some specific examples of how this could work in practice.
Okay.
GPT-4o could help patients navigate the often complex process of finding and enrolling in clinical trials. It could help doctors make more informed decisions by giving them rapid access to relevant medical literature and research findings.
Okay.
There's even potential for it to play a role in personalized medicine,
Wow.
using its reasoning abilities to help develop customized treatment plans tailored to individual patients.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's really cool stuff.
It sounds like something straight out of science fiction, but it seems like we're actually on the cusp of making this a reality.
I think so.
But, the system card does emphasize the need for real-world testing.
Right.
They're not suggesting that we replace doctors with AI just yet, are they?
No, of course not. Well, the initial results are very promising.
Okay.
It's crucial to rigorously evaluate GPT-4o's performance in actual healthcare settings.
Right.
There are ethical considerations, logistical challenges, and regulatory hurdles to overcome before we see widespread adoption of AI in medicine.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a good reminder that even with the most advanced AI, we need to proceed with caution and ensure that, human oversight and judgment remain, central to any decisions that are being made.
Absolutely.
Okay, so now let's shift gears and talk about another area where GPT-4o could have a major impact:
Okay.
scientific research.
Yeah, this is an area I'm particularly excited about.
Yeah.
Imagine having an AI that can analyze vast data sets, identify patterns, generate hypotheses, and even help design experiments.
Yeah.
GPT-4's ability to process information from multiple sources, text images, data visualizations, even audio and video recordings of experiments
Wow.
could be a game changer for scientific discovery.
It's like having a superpowered research assistant working tirelessly alongside scientists,
Right?
helping them sift through mountains of data and uncovering hidden insights.
Exactly. And it could accelerate the pace of research in fields like genomics, astronomy, climate science, and countless others.
That's incredible. Are there any limitations to its scientific capabilities?
There are a few. For example, while it has shown some ability to interpret scientific figures and images, it can still make mistakes, especially when dealing with more complex visualizations.
Right.
And while it can assist in data analysis and interpretation, it can't replace the critical thinking, creativity, and intuition of a skilled scientist.
So it's a tool, not a replacement.
Exactly.
It can augment human intelligence, but it can't replicate it entirely.
That's right.
This brings us to another important area where GPT-4o could make a difference:
Okay.
addressing language inequality.
Yeah, this is a topic that's often overlooked in the AI conversation.
Yeah, and historically, AI development has been very heavily focused on English,
It has.
leaving many languages underrepresented.
Yeah, creating a digital divide, limiting access to information and opportunities for speakers of those languages.
Right. How is GPT-4 is different?
Well, OpenAI has made a very concerted effort to improve GPT-4o's performance in languages that have been historically marginalized in AI development. They worked with external researchers and language experts to evaluate GPT-4o's capabilities in 5 African languages:
Okay.
Amharic Hausa, Northern Sotho Swahili, and Yoruba.
It's great that they're taking steps to address this issue.
Yeah.
What were the results of the evaluations?
The findings are very encouraging.
Okay.
GPT-4o showed significant improvements compared to previous models in reading comprehension reasoning and avoiding common misconceptions in these languages.
That's good.
So while there's still a gap in performance compared to English, it's a positive step towards making AI more equitable and accessible for everyone.
I applaud them for prioritizing this and recognizing that AI should benefit all of humanity,
Yeah.
not just a select few. Now, the system card also raises this really interesting question about how we interact with increasingly human-like AI. They use this term anthropomorphization,
Right.
which sounds kind of intimidating, but I think it gets at a really important point.
It is a fancy word,
Right.
but the concept is pretty straightforward. Anthropomorphization refers to our tendency to attribute human-like qualities to non-human things.
Right.
It's something we do all the time. We give names to our pets.
Yeah.
We talk to our plants. We even get emotionally attached to our cars.
We do.
Yeah.
I think I cried a little when I saw my first car.
Exactly. It's natural.
Yeah.
And it's something we need to be mindful of as we interact with increasingly sophisticated AI systems like GPT-4o.
All right.
When you're having this back and forth conversation with an AI that sounds and feels like a real person, it's easy to forget that you're interacting with a machine.
It really blurs the lines between human and artificial intelligence. What are some of the downsides of this?
Well, there's a few things to be cautious about.
Okay.
It can lead to misplaced trust.
Okay.
People might start relying too heavily on AI, assuming that it has human-like understanding and empathy and even consciousness,
Right.
when in reality it's still just a complex algorithm.
Yeah, it's important to remember that AI, even advanced AI like GPT-4o, doesn't actually have feelings or subjective experiences.
Right.
It's simulating human-like behavior, but it's not actually feeling those emotions or having those thoughts in the same way that we do.
And another concern is emotional reliance.
Yeah.
People might start forming very deep emotional attachments to AI, especially if they're using it for companionship or mental health support.
Right.
And while AI can be a very helpful tool in those contexts,
Yeah.
it's crucial to maintain healthy boundaries and recognize that AI can't truly replace human connection and interaction.
It's a double-edged sword.
It is.
AI can potentially help us address issues like loneliness and social isolation.
Yeah.
But it could also worsen those problems if people become too reliant on it and withdraw from real-world relationships.
And to OpenAI's credit, they acknowledge these potential challenges in the system card.
Okay.
And they're urging further research into how anthropomorphization might affect our relationships with AI and each other.
Yeah, it's a reminder that the development and deployment of AI requires careful consideration.
Yes.
Not just of the technical aspects, but also of the human and societal implications as well.
Very much so.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We have.
From the technical intricacies of GPT-4o to the broader ethical and societal considerations. So as we wrap up,
Yeah.
what are some of the key takeaways that you would want our listener to walk away with?
I think the biggest takeaway is that OpenAI is taking the responsible development of AI very seriously.
Okay.
They're not just rushing to create the most impressive AI possible.
Right.
They're taking a very thoughtful, measured approach, carefully considering potential risks and actively working to mitigate them. They're being transparent about their processes, sharing their findings with the community, inviting that external scrutiny.
It's reassuring to see that level of commitment to ethical AI development.
Yeah.
It gives me hope that we can harness the power of AI for good while navigating the potential pitfalls responsibly.
I agree. It's an ongoing process that requires collaboration and open dialogue between AI developers, policymakers, ethicists, and the public.
It's not just about the technology itself. It's about how we choose to use it and how we shape its role in our lives and in society as a whole.
Very well said.
So to our listener, we encourage you to continue exploring the world of AI, engage in these important conversations, and stay informed about the latest developments because we're really on the cusp of a technological revolution.
Yeah, we are.
And it's really up to all of us to ensure that AI serves humanity's best interests.
That's a great message to end on. As we continue to develop these increasingly sophisticated AI systems, we must do so thoughtfully, ethically, and with a deep understanding of the potential consequences.
Well, thanks for joining me on this incredible deep dive.
It was my pleasure.
I'm sure our listener has a lot to think about as we all kind of enter this new era of artificial intelligence.